The Benagoi koi variety was one of the original koi varieties, first popularized in the early 1920s. The variety began with the Magoi carp, which was a black wild carp common in Japan in the 18th and 19th centuries. Around the beginning of the 19th century, wild carp started to become pets, rather than purely food, and koi keeping started to become a hobby. Many of the early koi varieties came about as a variation or a mutation of the wild carp, and the Benagoi is no exception. In fact, the very first variation of the wild carp seen by the carp farmers was the red-bellied magor. By selectively breeding pairs of wild magor that each have small amounts of red coloration on their underside, farmers were able to produce a magor with a purely red belly, the appropriately named red-bellied magor. This red-bellied magor was then bred with the kohaku koi, a white koi with a red pattern, to produce a pure red fish, the benagor. The name benagor literally translates as red koi. You may have noticed that in the koi keeping hobby, there are a few different Japanese terms meaning red, the most common of which is hi. This koi variety is called benagoi rather than higoi, because the ideal color of the koi is an orange-red, which is associated with the word beni, rather than the deep, fiery red associated with the word hi, such as on a kohaku koi. Just like most other single-colored koi, a few different shades of red are acceptable, with each koi keeper having their own personal preference. As with many koi, but especially single-colored koi, the consistency of the color determines the best koi. This is because, in single-colored koi, there are no bright patterns or contrasting colors to draw the eye. Instead, there is just the one color which should be perfect all over, including the body, head, fins and tail, and, in general, the more consistent the color of the fish, the better the quality of the koi. For single-colored koi, any deviation in shade is considered an imperfection in the fish. Of course, for a benagoi koi, the shade of the beni is important too. Generally, any shade of deep orange or red is acceptable, but the best shade is considered to be a deep orange-red, just dark enough to be clearly red instead of orange but light enough to still have a hint of orange coloration. With the variety, the fukurin pattern is a darker red color, so the pattern gives the fish the appearance of having darker red scales, outlined with a lighter orange-red. Of course, some fish will show this much better than others, with many only having a hint of fukurin that is very hard to see and others not displaying the pattern at all. If the benagoi does have a visible fukurin pattern in its scales, it should be as even and consistent as possible. Each scale should be arranged neatly and in even rows, while the thickness of the reticulation should be equal across all of the scales. The color of the fukurin pattern is less important, as different koi keepers prefer different shades. A darker fukurin color will give each scale a very distinct outline, while a lighter color will give a more subtle effect. Again, however, consistency is key. Every scale should be the same color and shade as any scales with a different fukurin color will be immediately obvious. Benagoi koi are a great addition to any pond. With their vibrant red coloration, they are sure to always stand out and be noticed in any group of koi.